we're just going to go over stuff for the first hour, right? And then at the end, we can hold a bit of a day of a
Q&A, mate.
Yeah, I was going to say daily Q&A, but I realised I was looking at daily chart. So, structure, right? Also, we're going to let you annotate. Please do not draw rude things on the chart. You will be kicked out, right? It's going on the website. Simple as, right? One rule, don't break it. No second chances. So, structure, right, is one of the most misunderstood things within Forex and within our community, I think personally, right? Structure tells you everything, right? It literally shows you the best POIs, it shows you the order flow in the market, it shows you direction, it shows you everything you need to know, right? It gives you entries, etc., 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 right? How we view it, right, like through multi-time frame analysis, really defines how well we're going to be able to trade this stuff, right? Honestly, I can't stress the importance of it enough. Like, if you understand structure properly, everything else becomes easy, right? So, first question here, right? Hold on, I'm going to write this here. Are we bullish or are we bearish? What is daily structure at this point in time, right? If you all want to stick this, yeah, just put a tick or something next to it.
Scribble next to it or draw it, whatever.
Scribble next to it. Okay. A lot of people saying we are.
I'd say that's 50-50 at the moment.
That's 50-50. And this is where the misunderstanding comes from, right? Even Alex is saying it's bullish. Wow, Alex, I expected better of you, mate.
Oh, no.
We are bearish, right? We are overall bullish, yes, but we are in a bearish leg at this point in time, right? Al, can you clear all the thingies?
Yeah, I'm on it, mate. I'm clicking it.
So, what have we been doing on daily, right? On daily, we have broken a major high here, right? So again, what do we always expect after the break of a major high? We expect a pullback, right? Pullback will be bearish in nature if it's been a bullish break of structure, right? We have another break of a high here, right? We have another break of a high here. So all of these lows, right, are swing points, right? So when we break a swing point, we can start assuming that we will see continued bearishness in the market, right? If we're breaking substructural stuff like this, right, this isn't enough to confirm, right? Because this is only this is more a change of character, right? Here to here, you see we have this little inside bar, right? So once we break this level, we can say that most likely we will now see another lower high in the market, right? Or the first lower high, not another lower high, but the first lower high, right? We then break, so we then create a new low, right? When this low gets taken here, right, we can confirm this lower high, right? And it's always the highest point or the lowest point before the low or high is created, right? It's nothing else. It's not the part that created it. It's not like this isn't structure, right? This is structure, right? This is like minor structure. I don't know. So this is a mess, right? But this is the high, right? When we fail to close above this high, right, we can then assume that this has been a liquidity grab on the highs, right? So we will now see a continued move to the downside, right? We can confirm that on lower time frame structure, right? So now we can go on the 4 hour, and yeah, okay, on the 4 hour, we have a close above, daily, two very different things, right? So where do we need to see now to know that the 4 hour is probably going to continue its move down? What high or low do we need to see broken? Who's put this down?
Who wrote that?
That's got to be Aaron, mate.
Yeah.
That's Aaron.
It was.
Cool. So when we start looking at structure in depth again, right? Here we have another break of a swing high here. Right, we get that, right? Then we get another break of a swing. We get a break of a swing low here, right? Then we get a break of a swing high here. Right? So then we get another break of a swing high here. So we need to see this broken. Right, once this breaks, it realigns 4 hour with our daily bearish bias, so we can continue to trade shorts really safely. Right, so cool. Now we get a pretty heavy break of 4 hour structure. Right, perfect. Right, now what is the next likely thing? Right, so the next likely thing in this case, right, is that we will see a run on major structure. Right, a run on liquidity to mitigate something to form the pullback to then continue and form the next lower high. Right, so once we see this level,
small things, man. All right, yeah.
what?
Right. If you come in and you're unmuted, can you mute yourself, please?
Yeah. So once we see a run on this level, right, we can say that we will now probably see a pullback. Right, major structure has been broken. Right, we will now likely see a pullback to something around here. Right. But now, where do we change? If our bias is going to change from bullish to bearish, right, on the 4 hour, where needs to be broken in this case? Good.
Lovely.
Very good. Yeah, perfect. Perfect. You all understand that these are just tiny little pauses in the market rather than lows that cause highs. You see, it's always the big stuff you want to focus on for structure, right? So cool, we see a nice pullback, and now we will likely see another run on this low and a run on this low, right? Because this has mitigated this low to cause liquidity to run both and then probably pull back again, right? So cool, we melt through, right? Now we're going to likely see another retracement, right? Doesn't matter where the retracement comes to, you know, this all comes from further study, but we will likely now see a retracement, right? So cool, now we see not a break of structure, but this change in character, so we can confirm that the retracement will probably come from whatever changed character down here, right? Right, cool. We see this, right? But now, after this impulse, right, what are we looking at? Bullishness or bearishness? Where do you think, right, if you didn't know where EU was going to go, right, because I'm sure you've all looked at the 4 hour chart, where would you think it's going to go at this point in time? Okay, interesting. All right, the most likely course of action at this point in time is probably to continue down because we've created another 4 hour week low that's in line with our daily bearish bias, right? We've tapped in to some, it's not the greatest 4 hour supply, but we've also tapped into very near the bottom of this range and the bottom of these wicks essentially, right? So we see a run on the week low, right? Perfect. Right, now, what are we looking at now? Where would you say it's going to go from here? Would you say it's going to take out the equal highs, or would you say it's going to continue on lower? This thing here isn't even an order block, right? For whoever's put the continued rally from there, right? This breaks no structure, right? The break of structure comes from here, right? This breaks the lower high, so that's why we see the continuation from there, right? This isn't going to stand a chance, right? what is most likely going to happen now, because this low has been formed without a run on liquidity, right? It's been formed via equal lows, right? The most likely thing is that this low and this low now get run, right? So cool. Now we've seen another heavy break of structure, right? So next thing is we should get that pullback, right? Or the mitigation of something more significant and the change of trend. In this case, we come into like weekly levels. So we do eventually change trend, right? But at first we get a pullback, right? Then we get a continuation, right? Then we get this little change of character down here, but this is all to do with daily stuff, daily, weekly stuff, basically, right? We're right at the discount of the weekly range. We get the low gets taken, the high gets taken. So we can now say that if we're looking at this from a weekly perspective, right? Weekly's very, very bullish at this point in time, right? We've taken the low here, we've taken the high here, we've created another higher low here. So the next likely course of action is we will see another higher high, right? Another higher low and a higher high, right? So now what's the next likely thing to happen? Well, after the weekly mitigation, the next likely thing to happen is another weekly mitigation, right? So we will now likely see this swing high get taken, right? And then the continued move back up, right? So once again, we get the break structure from here, right? So you're well within your rights at this point in time to assume that it will come down to here or something like that. This level does make sense to a degree, but it's a bit more advanced. We'll go over that another time. But yeah, so we've had that break of structure, we've had the pullback, right? So now we will likely see another continuation and then a pullback of some form of supply, right? And unless the supply lines up with the time frame, right? Unless this supply, right, that this reacts off is 4 hour, we can assume that the lows won't get challenged, right? That it will, like, even this low shouldn't get challenged at this point in time, right? It might get run a little bit, but it shouldn't get actually taken out, right? Which it doesn't, right? Because this is like a 1 hour mitigation against 4 hour weekly daily structure, right? So now we see another run on the high. So what's the next likely thing? Well, the next likely thing is another mitigation and another pullback, right? This is actually all this is all daily supply, right? Not strong daily supply, because again, this high doesn't form via a run on liquidity, right? See how this high forms, takes liquidity, pushes hard and fast away. This one doesn't form properly, right? This one has formed much better than this one, right? We've had a run on liquidity here, run on liquidity here, right? Forms much quicker than this one. I mean, this takes 10 days to break that low, right? This one takes 6 days to break that high, right? So, cool. Now we see the range at this level, right? Which is going to happen as people mitigate out of positions and whatnot, right? But the low is not getting taken, right? So now what do we see, right? Well, now we see the continuation to the upside, right? Next likely thing, a run on some form of swing high, some form of liquidity, right? And another tap into some form of supply, right? Which is in this case, these wicks. Sorry, this is all. But yeah, some form of tap into this and another pullback to then continue, right? Because again, this is lower time frame supply, right? So we see the pullback, right? And then the run, right? Now, how has this low formed? Well, this low has formed correctly, right? We're just continuing to break structure to the upside. So at the moment, all of the highest probability trades are going to be longs, right? Intraday, whatever, right? The highest probability trades are going to be when you get back to areas that break structure or areas that change supply to demand, right? And then continue on up, right? The best lows are always going to form like this, right? Again, we get a run on equal lows. and then a continuation to the upside, right? Now, here we can say 4 hour has somewhat changed character. So we will probably get, or potentially get, a 4 hour continuation, right? But we don't know at this point, right? So here again, we get the 4 hour continuation to the downside, right? But this by no means 4 hour is bearish, right? To be bearish, it has to take, exactly, has to take this out, right? If it doesn't take that out, likelihood is that, right? Again, forms via a run on equal lows, so we can assume that this low will be somewhat protected, right? Now what happens? So now this is an interesting one. What do you think it does next, right? If you didn't know what it was going to do next, what would you assume? Well, one person drew. Interesting. Trendline liquidity isn't, this is where liquidity becomes subjective, right? Because structure will take precedent over liquidity, right? All of this is weekly, daily stuff, right? Most likely, we are not going to see a continued move to the downside when weekly is potentially printing a new higher low, basically, right? So here, right, this low didn't form correctly, right? It didn't form via run on liquidity, as Aaron pointed out, right? So now we will potentially see this mitigates something very significant over here. And this is what I mean by when you start reading structure, right? You can actually say, well, this POI is much more significant than this, than this, than this, than this. This is the supply to demand flip at the extreme of the move that ran liquidity and just destroyed everything in its path. Just sold for like, what? What's that? That's 25th of February for 2 months, basically, for a month and a half, month and a bit, right? It just sold off after this move, right? Probably quite a bit of money sitting at this level. There's probably quite a bit of interest sitting at that level, right? This low didn't form correctly, right? By a no run on liquidity. So we will now most likely see a run on that low, right? And here, most likely what we'll see is another 4 hour mitigation, right? Some people have pointed out this, yes, to a degree, this to me isn't a 4 hour like demand candle, it's bullish, right? Yeah, we do have a big wick and it did form correctly, but because it's not bullish, because it's not bearish and gets engulfed, right, like this, I would be assuming that this could potentially get run, right? We might see a reaction off it, yes, but we potentially see a run on it, right? So cool, we see a run, right? Now what's the next likely thing to happen? Right, we've had a break of structure, so draw what you think is the next likely thing. Yeah. Shouldn't come back down to here, right? Because we have this protecting it, right? Here, sorry, I forgot to draw this on. But again, over here, right, we have the daily boss, like the daily swing boss, right? Not even a change of character. This is like serious swing structure going, right? Essentially, this candle here broke that swing structure. So we should not see, if we see a move below this, 100% we're bearish, right? But we've taken a swing low, right? So the next likely thing now is a run back to whatever broke that low, and then a continued move down to then seek some form of demand within this range here, right? And then a continuation to the upside, right? This isn't, I don't know who drew that, but that's not a thing, whatever. Unless you were drawing these wicks. In that case, the wicks are correct, but this candle specifically is not. So yeah, we see another lower high printed, right? So we have our continuation, right? So the next likely thing is another lower high, right? That's the likely thing at this point in time, right? until we see something telling us it's not, right? So there we see the next lower high, right? Cool. Now we've taken pretty much all of the available liquidity, right? From below here, right? As I said, if we break this level, we're very definitely bearish, right? At the moment, weekly is in charge. So the next likely thing from here is if we see another break of this level, or we could see a continuation down to here, yes, but if we don't, if we see a break of this level, the next likely thing is a run on this high, right? Because again, if we look at daily, this is a weak daily high. It has failed to create swing structure, right? So now, if the 4-hour realigns, longs are, well, even if the 15-minute realigns at this point in time, longs are on, right? So cool. We see that first minor break of a high down here. Then we see a break of like the proper swing high here, right? So yeah, draw on what you think is likely to happen next. All very good. Yeah, exactly. Something into this range here, right? Because this range took out the swing high, right? This range didn't do anything that's significant. We can say this low is formed correctly, so this low should be protected, right? It's formed via multiple runs on sell side liquidity, right? So now we see a break of that, and yes, we should now see a pullback, right? So cool, we get pretty good pullback, right? But the pullback fails to create, right? Gives a big rejection, runs liquidity, right? And gives us a break of structure to the upside, right? Takes a low, takes a high, right? So now we can assume that what happens next? Exactly, right? And this is the same for all time frames, right? That shouldn't really pull back to here from here. If the high is going to get run, the high is going to get run impulsively because it's in line with the trend, basically. We might see a range before it, but we wouldn't generally see a deep pullback. At that point in time, the swing high would be the first target, right? Once the first target is taken, then the best idea is to wait and see how the market develops, right? Because the next likely thing is, again, a pullback to go up, right? So cool, we get that 4-hour change of character now, right? Takes the low, or takes the high, takes the low, right? So now what are we looking at? Interesting. Right, so now this is where you really need to start noticing the devil in the details, right? Because here, if we zoom in on this, right, and this is where the whole multi-time frame analysis stuff comes in, right? So here, what do we have? We have this, right? Not demand, but it is something that broke structure, right? So now, cool, we have our daily range that causes the break of structure, right? Is that 12-hour or anything? Yeah, we have a 12-hour inside bar there, right? Once we break that range, right, we push, what does this do? Mitigates the range, right? So, cool. It also reacts to this massive wick over here, right, which is going to be some form of supply because it's taken a low here, right? But again, not swing structure, just a low. But once you start understanding swing structure, this is when all of this stuff becomes easier to understand because you understand here, you're not looking at a break of structure. So you're not looking for a continuation. You're looking to see what happens via the reaction, right? So this changes that dynamic between supply and demand again, right? So cool. Now what happens? Let's see. Is this low going to be protected? Well, you know, let's just see what happens now. We could react off anything in here, right? This whole range, but this is essentially the most high probability point at this point in time, right? So cool. After that change of character, what do we get? We get the continuation to the downside and the failure to break a low. So what does this high become? Yeah, very good. Well done, Hansi. EQ, OQ. Yeah. So yeah, cool. This high now becomes liquidity to get taken, right? But again, what have we not seen? What did this low not do? This low didn't form correctly. Equal lows, right? Liquidity, target, right? This level here, whatever was in here has already now been mitigated. So now most likely we will see a push down into like this or something, right? But whatever was in this little range here is done, right? This is still unmitigated. So it could potentially come into there. You know, we've always got these 4 hour levels to worry about, right? But this is essentially the first real area that we can expect, especially if we've had a break of structure to get back here, right? This is the first real level because it's mitigated daily range and is the failed reaction that causes the high. This is the first real level. We can start expecting these equal highs to get taken, right? But this high here has formed correctly, so we will almost definitely see some form of support. Yes, Felix, support is what we're going to see, mate. We will see some form of continuation to the downside, right? So cool, we get a nice break of structure, right? Yeah, prints a nice liquidity grab candle, right? But there you go, we get the 4 hour mitigation, right? Breaks the first bit of structure. So now most likely thing is a run on this low because it broke no swing structure, right? And you notice I'm always like this here, right? This is where a lot of people get confused. This is not the high, right? This is the high, right? Or like here, this is not the high, right? This is the high. It's the highest point before the boss, right? Anything else is substructure, messy stuff, right? So cool, we get the continuation to the downside. Next likely thing, a pullback, potential continuation, right? Of the run on liquidity here because this high has now been mitigated. So in theory, it becomes weak. And that's why we've seen this nice move away so far. Right, we'll see how we react when we get up here because we are still bearish on 4 hour, right? But on daily, what have we done? Right, so at the moment, until we get a reaction and a break of structure on like the 15-minute, right? And a lot of people, like today I saw a bunch of people selling into this, yeah? Yeah, you can sell into this. Of course you can, right? It's the pullback, right? But the higher probability trade was from here, right? To continue the move up, right? Because this area again, if we look at 4 hour structure, no, not IMB. Here we have the break of 4 hour structure, right? If we look and investigate what breaks 4 hour structure in this case, right? We can say it's this, but we've got these 2 wicks as well, right? So there's something in these wicks, some form of supply that take this low, right? So why did this, like a lot of you, please, Sir Asia Sweeps. Yeah, no. So here, right, we come into this, right, which is 15-minute supply, right? At this point in time, the 15-minute is about as bullish as it's going to get, right? We've taken this low and like we've destroyed this high, right? Yes, these don't really form via a run on liquidity, so they could get run and we could see a deeper mitigation, definitely, right? But this is formed impulsively and we've seen this failed reaction here, right? So something within this failed reaction would probably cause the continuation of the move up, right? Because again, this high has done what? It's failed to create, right? We've had the change of character from it, but it's a counter trend change of character, right? So we take the low, or take the high, take the low here. So this change character, and we see the continuation to the downside of it, right? But then we see the change of character here. So next likely thing is the 15-minute continuation, which is exactly what we get, right? And it's the same with everything, right? Like I saw a lot of people, again, like this trade here, right? A lot of people say, okay, if we look at this here, right? Draw on the swing low and the swing high for me, please. Well, we have quite a mixed bunch here. So here, right, last time we took a low was here, right? Then we took a high here, right? So our swing low is here. And at this point in time, it's our swing high, right? When this gets broken, the highest point before the break of structure is here, right? Not here. Yes, this is supply that causes the break of structure. So it is a potential area to look too short. It's badly priced, etc., etc., etc. We'll go into that another time as well, right? But this, if we break this, it does not mean we are bullish, right? So when we break this, probably a lot of people are looking for continuations long, when the most likely thing is what? Bomb. Yeah.
Jesus, man.
I was like waiting. I was like, what are they writing? Right? So yeah, the next likely thing is a run on the weak swing low, right? And then we mitigate something on a higher time frame. So then the next likely thing, right, is once we mitigate this, which is that 4 hour level we spoke about before, this little unmitigated one here, right? The next likely thing is if we mitigate a 4 hour level, most likely 15-minute is getting spanked, right? Especially if we get this sort of impulsive move. It depends how it happens, but yeah, if we start getting this move away, most likely thing is 15-minute is getting taken. So now, what's the next likely thing? Yeah, either of these levels are valid. They both see reactions in the future. It depends how price is going to react to this, right? But that is the next likely thing, is that we will mitigate something and then see a continued move to the upside, right? Remembering that we have this 4 hour mitigation that's resulted in a boss, right? So the next thing is another 4 hour mitigation following 15-minute structure, right? So we see mitigation and we see the continuation, right? But again, what did this low not do? Right, because now we have a new swing low, but how did it form? By equal lows, exactly. So the next likely thing is the mitigation of higher time frame and a run on the equal lows, right? Perfect. Right, so now we see a whole lot of fuckery because we're at the EQ of the 4 hour range, and honestly, I know a bunch of people traded this day. 9 times out of 10, if you're in this situation, just go away, leave it alone. Do not trade it. Don't go anywhere near it, because you're going to see runs on highs, runs on lows, whilst they sort whatever they need to sort out. Right. And it's very challenging, to say the least, to trade. Right. I remember me and Al talking through this day and just going, I have no idea what's going to happen next. Like, to be honest, so it's better to just save your money. Right. Now we've mitigated higher time frame. Right. Again, this low has formed somewhat correctly, definitely run liquidity, but we know that we've mitigated higher time frames. So the next likely thing is a run on that low, right? And here, this is an interesting one. Which level has to break to confirm bearishness? Well, that's difficult to see.
Jesus.
On this one. Right, which one?
I think they went lower one, mate.
Yeah, good, perfect.
Yeah.
No, not this one. This one. The lowest point before the high gets taken. Right. So once we break that, right, we can confirm bearishness via other things, but structurally, until this level breaks, we are not bearish on 15-minute, right? We're still bullish, right? So, cool. We see that low get taken, right? So what's the next likely thing now? Next likely thing, structurally speaking, is exactly. Perfect. Well, not up here, because again, this level breaks no structure, right? So this level shouldn't really be tested until later on. This is the level that breaks structure, so we'll most likely see a mitigation of whatever broke structure, right? And then a continued push to the downside. Right, now we run these lows, so what's the next likely thing to happen? We run these lows and broken major structure. Next likely thing is a pullback, yeah, exactly, to something that broke this. Right, so something above it, basically, right? So, cool, we get that beautifully, right? Now, again, 15-minute is bearish, right? Because this is not enough to be considered swing structure, right? The swing high is this, right? Not anything else. That's the swing high, right? The highest point before the last impulsive break of structure, right? So the next likely thing, although this forms very poorly, right? Remember, they generate liquidity for later on and stuff like that. So potentially for if we're going to continue up from where we are, or if we're going to continue down, right? But cool, now we break 15-minute minor structure back, so we can confirm continuations to the downside. Right, we get a pullback after the run on this liquidity and the mitigation of whatever changed the 15-minute character here, right? Because we have this minor little, well, not minor, change the character important, right? They give you a lot of information, right? So we see, like, it's even after this change of character, you can assume the pullback and start trading continuations up to whatever you deem relevant in here, and then the continuation to the downside, right? Again, we pull back to whatever broke the minor structure there, and now the next likely thing is a run on those equal lows, right? Perfect. Right, and it's like that over and over again, right? But that's how you should map structure, right? If you're mapping structure like that, you're going to find yourself on the wrong side a hell of a lot less than you are going to if you're constantly going against like 15-minute structure and 15-minute and well 4-hour structure and 15-minute structure, right? And it's just understanding those basic things, right? How a good high is formed, how a bad high is formed or low, right? And understanding that when you get a break of structure, the best thing to do, right, especially if it's like 15-minute, 4-hour breaks of structure, right? The best thing to do after you get that break of structure is to stop trading until you hit higher time frames high, right? Or demand, whichever way you go, right? Like after this break of structure, right? It's not a good idea to continue trading short because you do not know where the pullback will come from, right? There could be some 1 second dot in here, right? And trust me, I've seen it happen. I will attest to this. I've tried to trade him before, but he won't let me. But normally, right, you will see a higher time frame mitigation, yes, but you can potentially see the mitigation of something random, right? So it's not a good idea to continue trading short. Let the market sort itself out and start pulling back, right? And then trade the pullback into the continuation, because it's likely that it is going to continue until we see a higher time, like a mitigation of the time frame that this has come from, right, which is daily. So the next likely thing is we'll see a daily mitigation, then a daily continuation, right? Does everyone understand that? Yes.
I think they're all muted, mate, but I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
And it's just like, it's so super important, like on every time frame, to get yourself on the right side of the market, right? Like, and like this NFP trade, right? If we take this as an example, right? We know that we have mitigated some form of daily demand, right? It's not the best daily demand, no, but we can see, right, that we mitigate some form of daily demand. We've broken major 4-hour structure, so the next likely thing is a pullback at minimum, right? Instead of looking too short, right? You see this horrible little nanny range, just stay out of it because it's pointless trading it, right? We see a little, this just trades below this low, only just, I think, I'm sure it did on the day, maybe it changed date or something. Yeah, no, this trades below the low, right? So we do get a minor run on liquidity, right? Then we get that first 15-minute change of character, right? It doesn't close above, but it takes the high, right? So we can tell on a lower time frame, this is probably a proper break of structure. Can I show you which OB is good to take an entry? No, we're talking about structure, mate. So now we see the continuation to the upside, right? And now we can assume until we get another, what is OB?
Ignore them. They're on the wind up like they was earlier.
Right, the next likely thing to see is something, you know, trade into this, right? The 12-hour level that breaks structure, and then we'll probably see a pullback, right? Which is exactly what we get the next day, right? We get the pullback into the continuation, right? And you don't have to, again, like, you know, once you start getting really confident in the levels that you trade, you can 100% be the first in the market. It's not always the best position to be, but you can start getting in there, right? But you can just wait for like the 15-minute to align, right? Here we get this, it's not really a high, but it's enough to say that on a lower time frame, something has probably happened here. This, I mean, this is definitely some form of supply, right? It's a bullish candle and a bearish run that gets engulfed. So once this gets taken out, we can start looking for that continuation off like the 15-minute, right? And yeah, here, if you're in shorts, you do have a right to expect them to come down to here, right? But better to at least take partials or definitely try to hedge from this and hedge aggressively, right? And then you get exactly what happened today, right? And now the next likely thing is probably, now that we've changed 15-minute character, you would expect some form of a pullback down to, you know, something in here. I haven't really analyzed it this afternoon, but once we see this, yeah, we could potentially run these lows. Like, we are mitigating higher time frame thingy. You would expect a slightly better move away in the market to be at a better time if that was really going to happen. Normally, if they mitigate and want to run lows, etc., right? Because we can say this low is formed correctly as well, right? Runs liquidity, yes, does create liquidity, but that could well be for later on, right? Normally, the move away, if they've mitigated this, which is essentially the extreme in this case, we do have, I know, yeah, we do have equal highs there as well, actually, so it could come up to this, but again, this high, it's not really formed very well, is it? Like, it's not formed by a run on liquidity. It takes this. I wouldn't class this as liquidity. Yeah, exactly. We have liquidity all hit, right? So my idea would be that if we're going to see a pullback, we might even just see a pullback to this. I don't know. Like, again, this changes supply and demand, so we're seeing some form of push away, but we might well see a run on this to continue the move up, right? And this might be the pullback that's already failed. Yeah. But yeah, the next likely thing is at least a pullback, right? And then a continuation, right? Until this low gets taken at this point in time, we shouldn't be assuming that it will, right? Because it was formed correctly, right? It was formed by a run on liquidity. It impulsively broke a high. So we can assume that that low will, to some degree, be protected, right? We don't know how long it will be for, but yeah, it's how you look at structure, right? Like here again, we can assume this will be somewhat protected. Like as soon as we get this change of character here, right? We take this high, we take this low after Aaron stopped telling everyone to buy to try and prove me wrong. After we take this low, we can assume that we will see the continuation, which is exactly what we get, right? Because this high here, right, although this isn't the swing high, this high here is formed correctly, right? So we can assume that it won't get run in the near future, right? Same as this low, we can assume it won't get run in the near future, right? How long have I been waffling on for? 45 minutes.
Yeah, mate, you've been smashing it out of the park, bro, to be fair.
Yeah, I think that pretty much explains everything, doesn't it? Like,
Yeah, mate, that's structure, bro, at the end of the day. Like, you know, there's not
and
really...
it's the same on every time frame, right? Like literally every single time frame. Whatever you look at, whether you're looking at the 1 second, whether you're looking at the yearly.
Yeah,
right?
it's all the same. Yeah,
So, oh, sorry, mate.
no, I said even the 1 minute. Someone said, what about the 1 minute? Now someone said, what about the 2 minute? I'm not getting involved, mate.
What's
He's mate, he's like just on a wind up.
Yeah, so
should we do raise hands questions?
Yeah, let's do raise hands and questions.
Yeah. Right, if you got any questions you want to go through, you know, raise your hand like last time and we will go through it. Can someone explain the reason why? Time frames are data, so you know, using all of them, especially the way Sam has his, he does it because, you know, sometimes if you can't find the right or the cleanest level of supply and demand on a 15 or a 1 hour, you know, use the time frames. That's what they're there for at the end of the day, until you can find something that's nice. It's like this morning, you know, the 8 minute inside bar was really clean.
Yeah,
use that.
There's nothing clean here, right? But I can see that there's been a reaction here. So liquidity grabs. Yeah, there's a liquidity grab, mate.
I was gonna say, yeah, right there.
Break structure back straight away. So yeah.
I don't know how to raise my hand. Can Sam go through today's session from his point of view, how he traded?
I'm not going to lead the whole session, I'll tell you. I mean, I explained it, right? Like this, I was expecting a push away from this to continue up. Like this was the level here, right? Then on the 1 minute, we saw that first tiny boss here. So that's the first valid trade, right? Then after you see this, right? I mean, this isn't really my session. I tend to trade from sort of 1 o'clock, right? But then you see the break of this high here, right? Which confirms that this pullback is finished, right? This is a 5 minute high. It's not, we've had here a 5 minute change of character. Yeah, we get a 5 minute change of character here. So it takes low, takes a high, right? So now after this breaks, we can definitely say this is likely to continue up, right? So we can then refine this down to here. We have to get somewhat bearish. You put in a lower high, so better to wait for the market to be on your side, which it becomes properly down here. And then you can just take that, basically. I wonder if this is going to continue up from there. It looks like it is, you know.
I reckon it will, mate.
But yeah.
You know, one thing I just want to quickly draw while you got that POI there, because loads of people have been asking me about Choc still, and it's frustrating. It's in Phantom Resources, if you haven't seen it, but it's essentially higher time frame mitigation here, right? We come in, we do this, we take the low, we take the high, boom. That's literally Choc. There's no, you know, any kind of secret sauce to it. That is it. You know, inside a higher time frame mitigation, Choc continuation. Same, you know. If you're coming up to something here, you know, if you get the Choc, you can play the intention, but it's always based on a higher time frame intention. It's not just oh, there's a chalk, let's hit it. It's got to have a logic behind it. Every trade idea that we take is based on 4 hour, 15M. They're the ones that, mainly we follow.
Yeah.
It's not just we saw a cheeky 1 minute chalk and went for it,
Yeah.
And it's not chalk.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Right. Have we got any? Oh, hang on, the question box.
Oh yeah, someone else. So yeah, like basically I do all of my structure on the 4 hour and the 15 minute. They're the only time frames I use for like proper structure to decide my bias, right? To decide which direction I want to trade in. Right. Everything else, every other single time frame that I use up there is literally just, I mean, yeah, I do structure on daily and weekly as well, but mainly it's for investigating and finding POIs, clean full body POIs, etc., etc., etc. Where do you use OB? Generally, when you're trading it.
High and low, strong and weak, high prob.
No, it wasn't. No, right? Someone just asked me this, right? So somebody said that over here, this is the swing low. This is not a swing. This is a swing low, yes, right? But here, right, we have a break of the high that causes this low, right? This gets broken and closed above, right? We get a pullback to consider it significant structure, right? That then creates a new high, right? So this is now the swing low, right? Nothing else. This is another low, but this is not the swing low now. The swing low is here, right? Structure is moved. By the time we get back here, we're bearish, right? Which is why, if this was really a swing low, you'd expect to see a slightly better reaction than this. Like even this gives a better reaction, right? I mean, obviously there's a lot of selling pressure because it's just come into like a 4 hour, very significant 4 hour B over here, right? And it's failed to close above on daily, so we're continuing down. What you need for H3 high low. So high probability high or low should always be formed by a run on liquidity and creates boss. Yes, exactly. So after 15 minute boss, you go down. Yeah, 15 minutes TF. What else I need to do? All time frames. Yes, definitely. What indicator does someone want to use?
The pivots one, the high and low thing, swing high and low. It's not very good.
It doesn't work, mate, because essentially what they're saying, right, is a high or low. I mean, in this case, it is. But
every time it bosses, they're giving you a new, obviously.
A lot as well, yeah, because they'll say like this is a swing low.
Yeah.
Right? This. You have two candle or a candle surrounded by two candles that trade higher than it in this case, so they would say that's a swing. If we want to follow intraday intentions, do we rather look for the efficient?
Oh, hang on, we've got some hands up. So should we go through them because they hang on one sec. Where are they? Michael, did you have a question? Michael Segovia?
Yeah.
Hey, mate, right.
There's a guy called
So yeah, I just wanted to understand this concept really clearly. So when a low or high is correctly formed, it's when it sweeps liquidity right before and then breaks structure, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Normally they're the best ones, mate. They hold the most weight. Right. You can see continuations off of these areas that don't do it as well, but normally, yeah, that's what you want to see. You want to see it take a low, like take equal lows or equal highs, and then continue on to break structure, basically.
And if it doesn't do that, then it's going to be taken out eventually.
More likely. You can't say it's definitely going to be taken out. I'm sure if we looked on like the weekly chart, I'm sure there's some equal highs from like everything's slightly subjective, right? Like especially liquidity, right? So, I don't know, maybe not. Look, we've got like these relative equal highs over here from 2008, So it's a while ago, right? They've left that liquidity sitting there for a long time. Maybe, you know, maybe we're seeing the run here, you know, get in, just buy, everyone hit buy. Not signals. But yeah, like normally, yes, there is a higher likelihood that if we see a higher time frame mitigation after those highs, so say we form equal lows on 4 hour and then we break bullish, right? But then we mitigate daily, there is, or a significant 4 hour, there is a higher likelihood that we will see those lows run. Yes.
Okay, I got it. Thanks.
Cheers, mate.
Works, man.
Theo, did you have a question?
Some guy called Sam wanted to.
Yeah, I got it on the list. Don't worry, boss man.
Oh yeah, Albert. I have two questions.
Yes.
But you went through the first one because I thought that was a swing point because it's the lowest point. But my second question is on the trade right before NFP, the continuation. I mean, after NFP, how do you identify those order blocks? Because the ones that are hidden inside like a bigger candle, I see you always put them on the wicks. Yeah, how do you identify them?
By going and studying, mate, looking left and see it, like looking at this, right? Like going, right, okay, well, we've had a break of 4 hour structure here, right? So, you know, where was our last break of 4 hour structure, right? It was this. This isn't a break of structure. This is like a little change of character, right? Like this is not enough to be considered a break of structure, right? So the last point of supply, right, is the last point that breaks structure, right? In this case, it's this, right? So now, like, I look at those wicks and I go, okay, well, something happened in there, right? Because if we're looking at this, right, essentially what's happened, right, on the lower time frame is we have a move up, right, which is this, right? Then a move down, right, which is this. Then a move back up, which is these wicks, right? Then a move down that takes out the low to the left, right? This, right? So this point here should, if we're going to continue to see bearish intent, right? This point here should continue on down to break more structure, right? So when the market comes back into them, right, and doesn't put in a low and puts in a high, right, that shows buyers in control, meaning that we will probably see this, right? And yes, there's always, who can finish that sentence for me? Write it in chat. I bet it's a few of you. You must have heard me say it enough.
Yeah, mate, it's coming. Shit in wick. There you go. Bang.
Exactly.
So you basically see them on the lower time frame, like the model you just drew. It happens on the lower time frame, but as you zoom out, time frame looks like a wick.
Yeah, but like, yeah, you can see it on the 4 hour, right? You can see that, you know, this is valid on the 4 hour, right? This is a buy to sell on the 4 hour, essentially, right? We can then go down and really define that level, right? And actually find out, you know, what time frame is there one candle on if we want to be really specific. I'm sure there is something that's rare that it's not. This is why I have so many different time frames. We have that doji there, which is nice. We might be able to find one nice full bodied OB potentially. There you go, 10 minutes. You always find something. That's why I have 97,000 time frames.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, right. Those 4 hour wicks are enough for me to look at that and say, okay, well, something happened. Yeah. Cool.
Thanks.
No worries, man.
Sarah, did you have a question?
Yes, I do have a question. Just a very quick question.
What?
So if the lows are properly formed, so say, you know, there's a run of equal highs or equal lows, in this case, say the PA for today. So for me, right now, it's just recently that I started like learning how to read the wicks, like the shit and wicks, basically. And what's caused the breakup structure. I guess my question is, say for the PA for today, that big wick there before that bearish engulfing had formed, would that be the extreme of the 4-hour structure? And then if that gets broken, then we are safe to assume that that 4-hour we switch to bullish.
This,
I think so. This
So
one.
if you go to 4-hour, if you go to, yeah, so if you go that 4-hour, because before how I used to read market structure is, you know, if we tapped into 4 hours, then technically we're going to run the high of the 4 hours.
Yeah.
Well, in theory, if the low is formed correctly, that should in theory what happened. But just to continue confirming my bias, that wick on the 4-hour before that bearish engulfing candles had broken structure, basically that's the extreme of the that needs to be broken in order for me to safe to assume, you know, like trade management as well, that okay, we're actually looking 4-hour bullish? Or is it safe to assume that just because it's tapped into 4-hour POI and the low has been formed correctly, then we can safe to assume that it's going to run the high?
so you're talking about this candle here, yeah?
Yeah.
This is the 4-hour high, basically, right? Like once we can start assuming now, right, that we have seen a 4-hour high or low in the market, right? Not a
Right.
swing structure thing, right? But we have seen a 4-hour high or low now, right? We've confirmed that after we've closed above this, right? This is enough of a pullback to consider that valid to a degree, right? This was
Okay.
honestly, right? So we can only really say 4-hour is actually bullish again once it takes this high hit, right?
Oh, I
At the
see.
moment, it has formed another higher low, right? So we would assume now a continuation to the upside, right?
So not necessarily this one, hey? Not necessarily that one, just because this one is basically what's broken the structure, like this one.
Yeah,
You know what I
exactly.
mean?
That's yeah, exactly. That's the area that broke structure. If we take this out, right, which we seem to be doing now, essentially this whole area here, right, is it tapping into the 4-hour buy to sell wicks, which would, I don't know, I guess be something on 2-hour, maybe 1 hour, something like that. Yeah, so we tapped into this, right?
Right.
That's what motivation has come, right? So we've now seen again, that's what this whole range is, right? It's the transfer of orders, money, capital, whatever, from sellers, right? Trying to force that next lower high,
Right.
to buyers who have now formed a higher low. So now we can assume that we will see some form of continuation to the upside, right?
Okay.
I would guess at least run this liquidity. This is valid to look at possible reactions, right? This high form run on liquidity, broke structure. This is what broke structure. We have inducement below it. So we could definitely see some form, if not a continuation to the downside, at least a reasonable reaction to that, if you see what I mean, right?
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. So just follow the continuation, because in theory, really, the only confirmation that it's really bullish is when we run the high, because we still don't know what it's going to do up in there. But right now, it's safe to just play with continuations.
Yeah, exactly. Until we see, you know, like keep following 15-minute structure. We're now sort of around the EQ of the range again. So it's always a little bit foggier to trade around those levels because price tends to go on fuckeries.
Yeah.
It just tends to do like stuff like this, right? Runs lows, runs highs. You see it a lot, right? Like even this is around, like this whole level here is around the EQ of this range, so it messes around a lot whilst they sort themselves out, right? We come back to the EQ of this range, we mess around a lot, right? We're back in the EQ here, we run lows, run highs, etc., right? Then we continue on down. It's just it's what happens around the EQ of ranges, right? Because that's the fair value area. So
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Thank you, Sam. Thanks everybody.
All right, thank you. JJ, did you have a question?
Yeah, how you doing, guys? I've got 2 questions for you. My first one being relating to structure. I can't find it on your chart. If you can zoom out for me, please. Are you on the 4 hour by any chance?
No.
I'm just trying to see where it is. Okay, I can't find it. Basically, my question was, you were talking about when 4 hour breaks, we have continuations off of that, so we're following 4 hour mitigations. But there was an example there where it took the high and took the low, and I got confused at that point. I can't find the example. It would make it a lot easier.
Was it a chart?
Are you saying here? Maybe this is what you're thinking about. Takes the low, takes the high, or something?
No, it was like one of these. It was like somewhere here.
Was it this?
No, it wasn't like that. It was like at an angle. It was at like I can't even see it. I'll move on to my other question. The other question was, see when price has a wick on a higher time frame, but on a lower time frame it breaks. How would you go about trading that?
I would see what 15-minute and 4 hour telling me. It's the reason I only use those for real structure, if you see what I mean. I don't mess around. I don't go, oh, okay, well, here, say this had wicked the 15-minute high, right?
Yeah.
But closed above on 10-minute, I wouldn't say, oh, we're 15-minute bullish. I'd wait until we get that break and close above, right? And then I'd be happy that we're bullish, right? Like, here's a good example over here.
There's an example in the 1 hour.
Example here of the trade I took. So like here, right? I wasn't happy to take a trade from here, right? Because we failed to close above, right? So in my point of view, at this time, this was a potential run on liquidity, right? So I wanted to be either a pullback into here and some form of change of character again, right? But when we close up here, right, I can say, okay, well, we've broken 15-minute structure now. Now I can look to trade that pullback successfully, right? Because all this shit happened in Asia, so this was the first time I really saw a chart, right? So I was like, right, okay, well, now we've closed above, so now I'm happy to trade that continuation to the upside to that, right, to sell it, basically.
Yeah, okay.
Like, that we'd probably see a continuation because we'd seen another 4 hour boss over here, I think. Something like that. I can't remember the exact period. Maybe we hadn't seen 4 hour, but we'd seen higher time frame boss. Yeah, basically.
So you just wait and let price show you what it wants to do, basically, before getting into it early.
Yeah, whole time, mate. Like, just it will show you what it wants to do, man. You know what I mean? Like today, like the whole point of it was, right, is that we didn't have to, like, here, we never had to go bearish to get back here, right? Yes, we were creating our highs, but we never had to go bearish, right? We didn't have to break structure. We had a little change of character, right?
Yeah.
The huge break of structure, right? So the fact that we didn't have to go bearish to get here gives me reason for aggression when we get down here, right?
Right.
I can say that this level should hold, so I can be confident in taking that first after the run on liquidity and the first break of structure from the higher time frame mitigation. We can say continuation.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
No worries.
Sam. Sam.
Yes, I'm here.
Hey mate, you all right? You got a question?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. No, I don't. There's another Sam, isn't there? You wanted to ask a question. Sam.
Oh, maybe he's not here. We'll go to the next one. If I get it wrong, I'm sorry. Is it Rafi?
Hello?
Oh no.
Yes.
Oh, you both come at once.
Yes. I'm sorry, man.
That's right. It's fine.
Am I able to share my screen real quick?
Yeah, sure, mate.
Sorry, mate.
Let's share screen. 1 second. Let me turn it on.
I'm sharing my screen on there.
No, for he to share his screen.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's on. Do I have to stop sharing?
Probably. Yeah, fire away, dude.
See it?
Yes, mate.
Perfect. So basically, I took a loss on a short on the intraday, but I won't go over that. What I basically was seeing is I saw this range over here. What you explained in the beginning of the webinar, I noticed that I missed the 4-hour wick where it responded off.
Yeah.
But basically, I was like following 15-minute structure. Also on the 4-hour, I saw multiple breaks of structures. It mitigated something in here. Reacted of higher time frame supply. So
Yeah.
I basically was looking at the 15-minute and I saw breaking these lows and it came up, it mitigated. Like,
But what's the last thing it broke there? What's the last swing structure it broke there?
yeah, the last swing structure is over here.
Well, last swing structure is up here, right? The last swing structure is this high here, right? Because this is the last time.
Yeah.
Break, right? So that's the last swing structure, right? So at this point in time, this isn't following 15-minute structure, right? This is counter 15-minute structure because it's bullish.
Okay.
Yeah,
so basically I
carry
was
on with me.
too zoomed in on the lower time frames, I guess, because also on the 5-minute, I saw the post in the Discord a while ago to refine ranges if it breaks to the upside, and on the downside you can refine it with the 25 and the 75%.
Yes, you can.
And
Yeah.
I saw this 5-minute like order block in here, and I took like the 1-minute short. So it was
here, essentially, right, the last time we take a low and a high here with no follow through is not in here. Why doesn't this me through? Is in here, right? We take the low, we take the high, neither side follows through, right? So your range is actually this.
yes.
Right? So you're actually trading within the center of that range, which is the do not trade in here, you will get fucked in the arse range. Basically.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry,
Yeah,
because
basically what I was seeing, I was like checking this overall range, and I thought we were in the premium to go low.
yeah, I suppose we are, but then those highs again, right? That
Yeah.
high that you're trading from has failed to create. Right, the larger high there. Right here, we're stuck. Like this is what I waited for, right? Like at this point in time, we're stuck between a high and a low that are both weak. Right, neither have created anything at this point in time, right? And we've had this range, so we don't know at this point in time which way is likely to go. Likelihood is the higher time frame, i.e., 15-minute intention, plays out, and we see a break of the high. Right, especially after a run on liquidity with liquidity to target, right? So the safest thing to do in this case is just to wait until we initiate out of this range, one side or the other, then trade in that direction.
All right, yeah, clear. Yeah, I wasn't anticipating to clear the inefficient price action over here and to mitigate this range. But
yeah, balance is a funny one, mate. It's
yeah, I'm not really looking at imbalance, but I thought like it has to correct something, and I thought like the overall range with the 50-minute, yeah, for me also the bigger range was for me still in the premium.
Yeah, you do have a right to assume that, definitely. That you definitely do, right? But we did tap the EQ, right? Which is where this shift in supply in this case, right, forming lower highs, right? Last attempt to form the lower high came here, right? So this is where the last attempt to form that higher low, or that lower high comes from, right? So now we've seen this change of character, right? We've seen price not follow through either side, right? So now the safest thing is to just say, okay, well, 15 minutes bullish, right? I don't know right now that we're going to come back down to here, so I'll just wait for the market to show me. So I'll wait for the break of here or here, right? And then if you just play price forward a bit, then we get a pretty conclusive break of that, right? And then the continuation out of this.
It's also so key, like it's so important to just sit if you identify that kind of PA, just don't trade it.
I honestly leave it alone, man. It's never good. You can trade it, yeah. Like, I mean, to be honest, I hate trading it, man. Like,
It's just
that's why I
shit.
don't. Yeah, it's just horrible.
There's no need. Like the minute it breaks out, all you get then is literally order flow, order flow, order flow. Like there's so many opportunities if you want to take it long, following that direction. But until it breaks out, you literally might as well set fire to your money.
Yeah.
Give it to me because I owe out quite a bit of money.
Yeah, I had been like this whole price action over here. I was patient the whole day, and I thought it was something valid, so I took it. It wasn't based on like fear or whatever, because I was following the structure. But
Okay,
just a bit, man. Just you know, because the 15 was still bullish.
Yeah.
Just wait for it to either, you know, continue to, you know, start breaking these lows and come back down here, or, you know, to continue with that bullish trend like it has, taking out that high. That's then your sign to right now I need to start looking into what's happened. Where can I look to get involved? Do I want to get involved? Blah, 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 blah.
if you're in this, it's just honestly, if you're trapped within this, right, and you've seen this, just wait. Like,
It makes you second guess your trading as well. You'll start to think, you know, what am I doing so wrong all the time? Because you might think the setups don't work or the entries don't work, but it's because you're just stuck.
Yeah, it's understanding where you are in the market, right, and waiting for the market to really show its hand. And then look what happens when the market shows its hand, you get the continuation up. See?
very clear. Yes, thanks. And one quick question. I heard you say the term failed reaction, also here on the 4 hour. What do you mean by a failed reaction? If I'm right, you called this.
Yeah, so this here, right? This here, we get a little break over here, this little low here, right? So we can assume there's some form of supply within this candle here, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's 15-minute off the top of my head from memory, right?
Yeah.
But essentially, again, it's the same as this, right? It's the same as what this continued off. It's a failed reaction. So this has reacted, right, and tried to continue lower, but failed to and continued higher. The exact same as this did, right? It reacted to these, right? This bit of supply, right? Reacts, fails to continue lower, so continues higher. Right, same as this. When it comes back down into this, continues higher, which is why my thoughts would be that we run that high. At the moment, with the available information, I don't obviously know.
Thanks a lot, man. Thanks for your time.
No worries, man. Whoa, no. I've lost my list that I had. I'm gonna go with, was it Rafa next?
Oh yeah, it was Rafa next, wasn't it?
Oh, it's okay, Albie. Thank you. I think I answered myself.
Oh, okay, mate. You sure?
These sessions are very, very useful. Really appreciate it.
No worries.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay, so it would be Curry.
Hello.
Hello, mate. All right.
How you doing?
How are you?
Good. Thanks yourself.
How are you?
Fine, thanks. May I share my screen, bro?
Cool.
Crack on.
Can you see it?
Yes, mate.
Yes.
Well, my bias for you, I know daily is bullish, but I believe price will reach this zone. If we go to a 2 hour time frame, I can see an inside bar. And today, last week price created these equal lows, and I believe price will reach this 4 hour inside bar.
I wouldn't personally call those equal lows.
No, me neither.
Why not?
Because it's not big enough, basically, right? Like that, the thing you're calling equal lows is, this is equal lows, right? Hold on, let me just get my chart out. We don't get me wrong, we could well see that, mate. Like at the moment, we are bearish on 4 hour, right? So definitely a possibility, right? But this is equal lows, right? You see how it's like well formed. This is equal highs, right? This is some form of liquidity. This is some form of liquidity. This, not so much, right? Like if I was going to say there was any form of equal lows here, I'd say it was just these wicks, really. The low wasn't formed the most beautifully I've ever seen. So, you know, we might see something, but yeah, like that is, it is a possibility, mate, right? But on daily at the moment, this high is weak, right? This is the strong low on daily, right? Broke structure. This one didn't really do anything, right? If you just click onto daily quickly, how is a high normally formed? Normally formed by around liquidity, normally doesn't form liquidity, right? And then break swing structure, which this is not swing structure on daily, right? This is not big enough to call swing structure. This is, right? But yeah, it is, don't get me wrong, mate. I'm not saying it's not probable at all, because it's still strong supply, right? Like it had an impulsive move away. It broke multiple levels of structure. It broke 4 hour structure, right? We have inducement, etc., right? I would be surprised if we just run through it, right? I would expect at minimum a reaction from it. And that reaction, depending on how that price action forms, could take us down lower into, yeah, that 4 hour POI you have there or something like that.
Yes, because what I'm seeing is that price reacted to this 4 hour sponsor candle.
Yeah.
Took all this, well, it went all the way down.
Yeah.
But I know that price touched the daily demand level, which is this one.
Yeah.
I didn't mark it, but I believe price may go deeper. So here it's a 3-minute inside bar, which was the last point. It was the point where it broke structure to the downside, and I see here liquidity, but I don't know if my analysis is right.
No, it's, mate, it's very possible. It's, you know, like, yes, it's strong supply. Yes, it's got inducement. Yes, it took liquidity. Yes, it broke structure. Yes, it's an inside bar. You know, yeah, 100% it is possible.
Okay.
I wouldn't go putting a risk entry on it.
No,
personally, mate. Because it is at that point in time, right? We will definitely, I mean, we've already got pretty decent bullish intent in the market, right? You know, let's see how long it takes. I mean, this took, what, this happened, when did this happen? This happened Wednesday, right?
Yeah, last week, Wednesday, Tuesday, sorry.
Tuesday,
right? So this is now formed so far over the course of 2 days. This took, what, 4 days to form, right? So at the moment, if we get another continuation during London tomorrow and we get back up to that, momentum's definitely bullish, right? And we've got two quite nicely formed lows. This low is actually formed really nicely, like takes liquidity, right? Ranges and bosses, right? Whereas this high has mitigated over here, so has more formed equal highs.
Okay.
Right. So if personally for me, right, with how bullish we're going to be getting back up here, I'd want to see something on 15 minutes before I take it short.
Okay. Well, thank you, bro.
No worries, brother.
No worries, man. Robbie next.
Hey guys, just a quick one, Sam. Okay, so I took a short this morning before London Open, which I thought was a hell of a good trade. But after the session today, I'm realizing I was counter trend, and in the moment, I believed I was with trend. I didn't acknowledge that 4 hour change of character from Friday from NFP.
Yeah.
So that kind of swung when we started going long, I was seeing that as being counter trend versus because I still see the 4 hour as being bearish in terms of we haven't taken out the highs, but I completely missed the change of character there. So thank you for that. That's very insightful, and it kind of explains why I burned so much cash today. The question I have though is on the FU candle that we got that took out the highs on the range.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't that have been a play to go short again?
Whereabouts? Sorry, can you show your screen? Show me which
I
one you
actually
mean.
can't. I'm doing this off my phone because we've got
Oh,
no
you
power.
mean no worries. You mean the
If you just share your screen, it happened around New York.
yeah, it failed to create me. You're talking about this candle here, aren't you?
Yes. So
Yeah.
so kind of
first
that's where I took my. So when I saw that 15-minute develop with that monster wick, we had an example at the end of last week where we had a really big FU candle and then we continued back to the downside. I'm struggling. Yes, exactly there.
Yeah, this was
because of the higher time frame POR.
Because of structure, mate. Simply, right? Like at this point in time, 15-minute was bearish, right? At this point in time, 15-minute was bullish.
Oh, geez.
Right. So this sort of only ever want to take whole trend.
Yeah, no, but so sorry. I still didn't. Why was the 15-minute bullish there? Because that wick we didn't close above price there. It only wicked above the high.
Bullish, right? 15-minute here. The last swing structure that we took, right? This is where you need to build the story, right? So the last swing structure that we took was the high, right? So the next likely outcome is a higher low, right? So this here, we're not bearish on 15-minute because we've broken no swing structure. We are seeing some form of lower highs in the market, right?
Yeah.
But the way these are formed is suggesting it's liquidity, right? So this has wicked the liquidity. That's why we got that massive reaction, right? This is just a reaction to liquidity, right? But then here, crucially, right, we fail to create, right? So we're counter 15-minute structure and we fail to create, right? Whereas whatever it was, right, we are pro 15-minute structure, and yes, we fail to create again, right? But we can always just wait for it to create one way or the other at this point, right? The only reason I tried to get in here, right, was because this was pro 15-minute and we just run these equal highs, really nicely formed lows here, right? Equal lows. If we go and look back over here again, right? What do we not have, right? Yes, we have this trend line liquidity, right? But this is also run liquidity, right? This is taken out liquidity here and then continue to this FU, right? Then we fail to create. So now the next likely thing is probably a continuation to the upside, especially when we've got this like change of character down here, basically, right? As soon as you see this even wick the high, be very, very cautious of taking shorts.
Yeah. So I mean, it's exactly that. I've only ever been looking for that change of character on the 1 and the 5 minutes, and completely dismissing that the market is fractal. So had I considered the 4-hour change of character, even if I'd taken the short this morning, once we started rejecting that 15-minute PRR, it would have been a good time to close and look for the longs.
Yeah, exactly.
Something so simple to avoid. But anyway, thanks for clearing that up today.
No worries at all, man.
Cool. Thank you.
100%. All right. Who's next? Any more questions? Time for one more?
I think we've got time for one more, yeah. Oh, it's Aaron.
Oh, God. Does Aaron need to ask questions? I normally go to Aaron with questions. How much drawdown are you in, Aaron? You must nearly be out now, mate.
Yeah, mate, you must be out of drawdown, bruv. You was what, 30 million?
It was 19 at one point, bruv.
He's not speaking, so I reckon drawdown.
8.6.
Oh, 8.6 million.
He's going to be right though. Do you know that's the really annoying?
Yeah, and I'm dreading it. Like,
He's going to run around like
hashtag never wrong coming my way.
Yeah.
The roller coaster of a trader, you know, you got to be able to take the lows and the highs.
Yeah, just hold, mate. If it's bullish on weekly, just hold it. It'll come back. You should have averaged into that trade though. I can say that.
You can't do it on the trading view.
What, you can't average in?
No, it will just close the position and open again at the price that you go to end on.
Well, that's shit. Well, you would have got it at that price, mate. You'd probably be up by now. What did you put on it? Like 10 million lots or something?
I think more than that.
Right. Any more questions?
I don't believe so, mate.
You've got Henry with his hand up.
Henry's hand's gone up. Sorry, I didn't see that, dude. Henry, you there?
Can you hear me quickly?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry for the last minute question that destroys the mood at the end of the session, but had a quick question about sometimes I get confused whether it's a strong sweep of liquidity or an actual break of structure. For example, if we go on the 4 hour for Euro USD.
This is just lines on a piece of paper. This is daddy's work. I'm studying. I'm learning from these people so I can do better.
Go on.
I like that.
That's too cute. I think that's Robbie, dude. You can
I muted him, bless him.
So basically,
yeah.
The 4 hour sweep there that happened like a few days ago. I thought it was going to be a sweep and then it would go up even more to make a higher high. But then I knew that we were also tapping into a daily order, like order block.
Yeah.
So when usually you see a big 4 hour candle closing below, making still a lower point, but still being a sweep of like a liquidity sweep, do you want to be on the safe side and just wait for price to advance, or do you assume that it's going to go bearish because we tapped into a daily order block?
Well, you assume that it's going to go bearish because you get the 15-minute break of structure from the 4 hour mitigation, right? Like that's the only time. And like at that point, yeah, I was half thinking, it's probably, it could well run highs from it. You know, like I was viewing that like until we got that 15-minute boss here, right, which took this low out. I think I was telling you that as well. This looks like it's going to smash the highs, right? But then it didn't. And then I was like, okay, we're breaking 15-minute structure, shorts are back on, right? It's like, mate, like you can't reading it as it develops, right? Like as soon as you get a 15-minute break of structure from a 4 hour mitigation, you can assume some downside, right? If the low has closed below at that point, right, it's much less likely to be a run on liquidity than it is to be a lower low.
Okay.
Right. If that had been one massive wick, right, and we'd failed to close below, then we're more likely looking at, you know, I mean, PA would have been different, but probably this range would have run some form of liquidity. We might have seen a mitigation of this, and then we would have seen here because this would have failed to create a new 4 hour low, right? But once we create a 4 hour low and then we get a 15-minute break of structure from a 4 hour mitigation, likelihood is continuation to the downside.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for responding. It was pretty clear. Thank you. Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah, cool, guys.
Well, we're going to call it a day there, guys. It's an hour and a half.
It has been lovely chatting with you all.
Yeah, Sam smashed it out the park as always. So kudos to Sam and his structure.
Well, can you guys just please go and learn that so we can get much more profitable traders in here? Because honestly, structure is the thing.
Yeah, get structure nailed. Stop trading mad ranges. Stop rushing.
Stop trying to take everything you see.
Yeah. Be patient. When it's trending, you can be aggressive. When it's not, just chill the hell out.
Yeah. Just allow it to develop.
Remember, you've got the whole month. Like, you don't have to do it all in a day.
Got your whole life.
And that, yeah. Spot me.
Mine isn't going to be very long if I keep giving money to Aldi for losing bets. So
yeah, no. Also, if you could all chat to Sam during the hours of 7 and 10, it would be great because we got a little bet on the go. So
Yeah, you won't be hearing from me much. I already am. Love all of you guys.
Right. But yeah, thanks for joining. I'm gonna push stop there. I know you're all gonna hang around. So yeah. Peace and love.
Thank you.